Hello everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. So today, finally, we're going to get into a little bit of Archangel Uriel. But before we go ahead and jump into that, I did not do a lot of notes on Archangel Uriel yet. So what I'm going to do is there's a couple excerpts from this book I'm going to read. I just finished this. I talked about it a little bit in one of the videos I just did recently. Great book. I highly recommend. It's not very long, especially if you're just now getting into spirituality, just now getting into learning about ceremonial magic and these various topics. I highly recommend The Land of the Gods. It's about Madame Blavatsky's journey to Shambhala, or Shambhala, however you pronounce that. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is. But yeah, great book. Highly recommend. In regards to the pentagram, if you've watched my pentagram video, we've talked about how the middle of a pentagram is centripetal, so it actually pulls the energy in through the middle of the pentagram. It can pull in like negative energy and stuff, and how hexagrams are more centrifugal. The hexagrams push the energy outwards. So they get into a pretty deep conversation in this book. Some of the masters of Shambhala are talking to Madame Blavatsky. And I don't want to read too much from this book. I read a couple other portions in the other video, but I really want people to go out there and buy this book, get it for themselves. But it is very much information, straight up channeled from her visits to the mountains and from these ascended masters. So this is really great information. A human is the god and creator of their own little world, and therefore similar processes take place if a person, by the power of introspection, directs their thoughts towards towards their own center of consciousness existing in their heart, and thus attempts to see what is going on within themselves. That's the whole point of magic, is really to go within, learn about ourselves, the divine nature of ourselves. Now, this activity, going towards the center, should never have created an external world, because the external world exists, so to say, on the periphery, and requires a centrifugal power to call it into existence. Centrifugal, which is the pushing out. The intellectual activity of the universal mind is a centripetal power, and couldn't therefore act from the center towards the periphery, but instead absorb things inward. Take this into account, when you're vibrating the sacred god names in the four quarters, and what's really going on with this ceremony. So I'll read that again. The intellectual activity of the universal mind is a centripetal power, so pulling inwards, and couldn't therefore act from the center towards the periphery, moving outwards. But you know that every action is followed by a reaction. The centripetal power, finding resistance at the center, returns and evolves a centripetal activity. And this centripetal power is called the soul. I'm almost wondering if there's a typo right here, because I think they meant to say the centripetal power, finding resistance at the center, returns and involves a centrifugal. Not sure. Or that it's just repeating itself with the centripetal, the pulling inwards of the energy. This soul energy is the medium between the center and the periphery, so the center and the outside. You kind of imagine this dot in the circle, astrological symbol for the sun. This soul energy is the medium between the center and the outside, or the periphery, between spirit and matter, between the creator and his creations, between God and nature, or whatever names you may choose to give to it. The soul is the product of the centrifugal activity of the universal will. So it's the outgoing, put into action by the centripetal activity of the universal imagination. So it's this contracting and then expanding, contracting and expanding. Sounds familiar? It should. It's the whole, process of the universe. The scientists kind of see it as the Big Bang, but really, we're going to get into it just a little bit deeper here. If these plain facts expressed in plain language without any scientific jargon, without circumlocutions, I'm not even sure what that means. Philosophical intricacies and modern gibberish are comprehensible to you. All you have to do is apply it to human beings, who are the microcosmic counterpart of the great macrocosm of nature. And it's important to remember in magic that we're not really separated from anything either. So if we're trying to hurt or if we're trying to do ill will, it doesn't affect us very well. If you direct the power of your mind inwardly towards your center instead of letting it fly off into the external sensual world, the resistance that it finds at the center will cause a reaction, and the stronger the centripetal power which you apply, the stronger will be the centrifugal power created. So the more energy you build up, the greater that, that externalization or the outgoing manifestation of that buildup will be. Let me read that again. If you direct the power of your mind inwardly towards your center instead of letting it fly off into the external sensual world, the resistance that it finds at the center will cause a reaction. And the stronger the centripetal power which you apply, the stronger will be the centrifugal power created, which is what we just said. In other words, the stronger will your soul become, even through this process of kind of resistance. And as it grows strong, it is invisible, but nevertheless material substance will penetrate your physical, visible body and serve to transform it into a higher kind of matter. This very much sounds like ritual magic to me. Thus you may in the end become all soul and have no gross physical body, but long before that time arrives, you will be able to act upon the matter by the power of your soul, cure your own bodily ills and those of other people, and do many wonderful things even at distances far away from your visible form. For the activity of the soul is not limited by the circumference of the physical form, but radiates far into the sphere of the universal mind. So it's important to remember that this circumference, or the sphere that our minds are attached to and are a part of, is a much grander macrocosmic thing than just this brain that exists like within our mind. A lot of us get trapped to being right here when really we're connected to all of it, and we can open ourselves and really tap in, very powerfully into these other realms. And then there was one other I meant to read. This was the page I was looking for in the last video that I covered this book. And it's really just, I think the people who follow this channel will really be, they'll really like this excerpt, because it's kind of what I plan to do. It's the ultimate